You did get the chance to finally catch a movie
Yeah.
that a lot of people were saying was going to be a sleeper hit. That people
Yeah.
were making their top list, but they were not ready because there was still one big adaptation. Sorry, bold adaptation that was still yet to come out. The Color Purple. I liked it. Zach, you got to see it in Christmas weekend. What'd
I
you think?
did. I don't think I was as high on it as you
Oh,
were. Yeah, I'm sorry to say. Um, I don't know. It's just a weird marriage of tones to me because this is such a, it's a historical drama about
yes.
a fraught time, and it's
Mm-hmm.
very much about like the abuse that women face and
Yep.
escaping, tough realities. And I think marrying that to the Broadway style show tune just felt discordant to me. It just felt a little like it didn't match. And a lot of times with these adaptations of previous properties to Broadway musicals, my frustration becomes that like people start singing and the story just stops flat in its tracks. And I don't know, man. I mean, like the singing is beautiful.
Incredible.
All the performances are like good and fun. I just didn't find many of them to be particularly interesting. I don't think that the characters feel particularly well fleshed out. So I don't know. Like it's well produced. I think it's well shot. I think it's shot a little more like a music video than a movie musical, but that's a whole other point. I just don't know if like it felt like it hit the right tone for me personally. But I also know that like I sometimes struggle with this marriage of like I don't know. It's something that you find a lot in movies that are maybe not faith-based, but faith-adjacent, where there's this like hopeful energy in the face of like really fraught circumstances.
Okay.
And so I don't know. I just sort of I felt at odds with the characters, and I think that going back to the original Color Purple film, I while I don't think that's necessarily the most successful version of this story either, I just don't feel like it holds the weight of those like really big showcase sequences.
Interesting. I thought it was great.
Yeah,
Compared to the first one, obviously all of it stems from the book that was written years ago. I know that a lot of
yeah.
the cast from the original read that book and was like, "Whoa, this is the story of my life." They made the original. They chose what's his name? What's that one guy? That one director? They got him to do
Uh
it.
Blitz. Are we
No, no, no.
talking?
The first one. The first one. They got that one dude to do it.
Oh,
Steven
Steven
Spielberg.
Spielberg. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so they got
Pretty
Steven
good
Spielberg to
director.
do it. Yeah, pretty decent. And there was a lot of pushback to that because they're like, why is this man telling the story of The
Yeah.
Color Purple about women, as you said, who are going through traumatizing times? I, there was one line, I can't remember who said it. And it was the idea was that they got him because he was the best director to tell this story. And it reminds me right now of the people complaining about Martin Scorsese telling
Doing
the
Killers of
story
the
that he
Flower
did
Moon.
with Killers of the Flower Moon.
Yeah.
They knew that he had the best eye and the best direction to be able to put that on screen. I think what he did with the original Color Purple was fantastic because he took Oprah, who many of us have seen in other projects. You've even heard her talk. She's a mogul. That's great. I think he directs her fantastically in this movie. If you
Yeah.
don't have Spielberg on the opposite end of that camera directing her, you do not get that performance out of her. You do not get that performance out of Whoopi Goldberg, who easily has one of her best performances in this movie. The whole story is of these two sisters who get split. One of them ends up with this guy named Mister, horrible person. But you get to see the ripples that come out of him being abused the same way, and then the abuse that can go there. Where do you stop those chains? I think it's a fantastic story. I think while the first one has better performances and the story is stronger, I think these two complement each other beautifully, dude. I think what this one's able to do with the music is make you feel it more than it is how you were saying it, instead of making it dramatic.
Right.
There are some story elements that you lose in The Color Purple where there should have been more of a dialogue happening between two people, but they cut to music instead. And I agree. I was like, it's not as strong as it was in the first one. But then they just, to me, they do something completely different and you get into the emotions of them. It stops becoming a conversation between two people and it starts becoming something that's happening in someone's head. And hearing the director talk about it, who, it's interesting that you mentioned it was like a music video. He did Black
Yeah.
is King. That's what got him on the
You know who
radar.
this is, though, right? It's Blitz the Ambassador. Like, he's a rapper who became
MoMA, all that. Yeah.
yeah.
I agree with you that they do look like music videos, but it worked for me because I felt like each one was a vignette of what's happening in the character's mind. There's one really interesting bit that The Color Purple does, the new one, where our main character, this time played by Fantasia, who she did a fantastic job.
Yeah, I actually really liked Fantasia. I know everybody's coming out of this movie saying Danielle Brooks steals it.
Who also is great.
Great.
But I told you Fantasia, right? I'm like, yo, she does a fantastic job in this. Also, the casting that they did between her and her younger self, I don't like, y'all must have time traveled. I don't know how you did that. Fantasia's character is processing everything internally in this movie. So there is this sequence where she is thinking about Suge, who is her man's real woman, who he couldn't tame, so she's always out there, played by Taraji P. Henson. And the way he envisions her on that couch, on the bed, off of the picture frame, that scene alone is what got me to understand the whole movie. I'm like, okay, every single time that we cut into these music video sequences, it's because we're in her head and we really do leave this dark world that she's in. And then when you snap out of the music video world, you're back into this grim reality where she is being abused by Mr., where she is having to take care of these kids who aren't hers. A lot of it worked for me. I do think that maybe me watching the original and then this one back to back complements them well. But it's also understanding that one is supposed to be an adaptation of the book. This is supposed to be an adaptation of the Broadway play that Fantasia was in, that I think Danielle Brooks was in as well.
Yeah.
I'm missing someone, dude. There was another American, I think she was in Dreamgirls too. Oh, why am I blinking on her?
Jennifer Hudson, maybe?
Yeah. I don't know why I didn't get her for something, but they got Sierra in this movie instead. I don't know. It worked for me. I thought that there was a lot of really good performances when it came to the music that came from Broadway, and then new musicals that they had that I'm rooting for to at least make the top 5 when it comes to the Oscars. They've already been shortlisted. Halle Bailey, I think, has the best one. It's that Sunshine Pocket song. I thought that was a beautiful song. I think Fantasia did a great job. I think it works. I think the cameos are beautiful. I liked it a lot. I think both of them are up there for completely different reasons for me as iterations of The Color Purple. So I give it my recommendation. I think it's worth watching in the theater. Zach, don't believe in faith.
Look, I mean, in terms of the theatrical experience, just because it's a musical, it totally benefits from that too. But I'll say I saw it in a theater that was pretty full. Primarily black audience. That was a great way to experience it because people are into it.
They know the quotes from the original.
It's like call and response. Yeah.
Did you get one of these, bro?
Really
everybody at the end, they do that bit that happens in the end of the original movie. Obviously, she's gonna do it here where she puts the curse, right? I thought everyone had seen the Iron Claw. They were all going like this to the screen. I had a great time watching it with the crowd that we had, and I'm looking forward to capturing it again. I thought Coleman Domingo, also a fantastic job from him as Mr. A completely different portrayal, in my opinion, because unlike Danny Glover in the original movie, who I think does a really menacing job, and I would say is even more menacing than Coleman, you get to see a side of this character where they allow him to be, not to spoil too much, but you allow him to see his mistakes be redeemed, forgiven.
Right.
I don't want to get too much into it. I thought that was a very powerful point to add in this iteration.
He's a little bit more textured than the portrayal of Mr. in the original, and that was actually one of the big controversial elements of Spielberg's handling of the original, is that a lot of people, James Baldwin being one of the notable ones, had critiqued the portrayal of black men in Spielberg's The Color Purple as being too unabashedly violent, to almost monstrously violent.
You never want to see the truth, right?
Yeah, but like you say here, the Coleman Domingo portrayal of it is one that's a little bit more well-rounded, one that goes further into why the character is the way he is, and does have softer edges in certain aspects to it too.
Because again, the story itself, it's not saying that all men are like that. It's specifically their story and what the author went through. And I think that the way that they showed this was showing you how you get to that forgiveness stage that the main character gets to. So I thought, to me, this is also one of my favorite ensembles, dude. I think the ensembles are great. I think the music is great. And I don't know, it worked for me in various ways, but there are a lot of moments that are a lot better in the first one than there are in this one. And then there are obviously musical elements that I think this one really excels with. Well, The Color Purple, out in theaters.
Can I say one thing, and hopefully nobody will call me ageist for it? Was Taraji right for this role?
She won bad for the role.
Like she's a great actress, so she's good doing like whatever, but I just don't know if she was right for the character. She is both 14 years older than Fantasia and 14 years younger than David Alan Grier, who plays her father in this movie.
the Reverend?
Yeah.
I'll let that one pass. I thought she was good for what the role asked for, but I will say that when it comes to a moment between her and Fantasia's character, it's something that's in the original, something that's in the book. I thought the way they played it off here was interesting, but specifically
you and I could have been that intimate. You and I could have gotten away with that. That was
and cut to the double. Yes,
pre-Obama stuff.
If you're not gonna commit to it, then what are we doing here? Yeah. I did see that one and the shadow outline. She was fine for it. I'm not gonna hate on her a bit. It was really interesting to see all the behind the scenes. Her whole press tour kind of took all of that away.
Yeah,
that became a big talking point, and her having to fight for them being driven to set. I don't know if you heard about that.
I did, yeah, and it's crazy because this is not like a small time production. This is Warner Brothers movie, and Oprah, one of the richest people in the world, is one of the producers on it. Yeah,
because you could say that this is a lot of money going into maybe a lot of people who have never held a production this big, and maybe they didn't know the ins and outs of it. But you do have producers who know the ins and outs of it. They should be providing that stuff for you. So it's a little weird for sure. A little weird.
And I know that some people might think or hear something like, oh, they didn't have cars driving them to set. How hard is that or whatever? But
no. Yeah, y'all need to understand that.
Yeah,
it's
like these are people who are working sometimes extremely long days, often at weird hours. Like if you have a night shoot, you're getting up, at like 10 p.m. or midnight to start your day. Not to mention you're in unfamiliar areas. And the most interesting point, I forget who said it on Twitter, but thanks to whoever said it. If this is how they're treating the above the line talent, imagine how they're treating the crew and everybody who doesn't have like a big celebrity name.
Yeah, that's really bad. But The Color Purple, out in theaters. You have a better chance getting a ride to the theater than the cast had
It did
to
really
get to the Atlanta set.
It did? Box office too. People underestimate black-led films all the time, and again,
and out of all
took
the
home a lot of money
too?
at the hall. Yeah, I think that's the thing is people were like, oh, musicals are doing so bad at the box office, and forgot that like there's always a crowd that shows up for these types of movies.
If you market it to them as a musical. I still yet to see the Mean Girls musical trailer or the Wonka musical trailer, but this one did keep the music in there. So hey, I'm rooting for it to get some Oscar shortlists for those songs. I thought they were pretty good. Color Purple, out in theaters now.